Right. We'll make a start. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Corruption Prevention Forum hosted by the CCC, brought to you via webcast. My name's Jeff Kennedy and I'll be your facilitator today. A few preliminary matters before we get underway. Firstly, in the spirit of recognition, I respectfully acknowledge the Jagera, Yugara and Turrbal people as the traditional owners and custodians of the land on which this event is taking place, and the elders past, present and emerging. So with those formalities out of the way, I'd like to introduce you to Paul Alsbury, the Senior Executive Officer of Corruption, to make a few introductory remarks. Thanks, Paul.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Corruption Prevention Forum hosted by the Crime and Corruption Commission. It's been a while since the CCC has conducted a forum like this, where we get all the various units of public administration around the state together and share some of the CCC's experiences. There are over 200 agencies that fall within the CCC's jurisdiction. They range from the large government departments in the Brisbane CBD to remote councils thousands of kilometres away from Brisbane. That makes it difficult to arrange representatives of those 200 or so entities across the state to be in the one place at the one time for such a presentation. But the increased use of technology, including Zoom and Teams, and the webcast service that we're using today, has allowed the CCC to host such a forum via live webcast. We propose to continue to use this method to deliver presentations to you in the future. As you've probably seen, the CCC has been in the news in recent times. Lots of people are talking about us at the moment. Some of the commentary is favourable, some of it is unfavourable. But as Oscar Wilde is quoted as saying, there is only one thing in life worse than being talked about, and that is not being talked about. And the work we do certainly means that we're never far away from the headlines. I wanted to point out a few recent outcomes of the CCC's work that are of relevance to your work and the work of your agencies. I'd urge you to look at these matters in more detail. They're all dealt with on our website. Firstly, some recent court outcomes include, in February, a former Queensland Corrective Services officer pleaded guilty to unlawfully accessing confidential information at work. He was fined $3,500. Employees accessing and releasing confidential information has been a focus of the CCC for the past few years now. In 2019, we conducted public hearings in Operation Impala on the issue. And this public hearing program included us making law reform recommendations to government to tighten up the area. In April, a former Racing Queensland employee pleaded guilty to fraud and was handed a wholly suspended 2-year sentence of imprisonment. He had disclosed confidential information regarding tendering and disclosed that information to a friend of his who was tendering for the work. The information disclosed included competitors' quotes and confidential internal budget information. Last month, a former council fleet manager pleaded guilty to fraud for approving over 150 orders valued at almost $850,000 to a company that he owned. He hadn't disclosed his ownership of the company to the council, and he dishonestly hid his ownership of the company from the council. He received a wholly suspended 3-year imprisonment term. These two cases I've mentioned highlight the ever-present corruption risk of procurement fraud in public sector agencies. The CCC has issued several advisories and prevention in focus papers over the years about this topic. And again, they're available on our website. Finally, earlier this month, the CCC published a report about how the Queensland Police Service implemented a policy to achieve gender equity in its recruitment. The CCC found the QPS used discriminatory practices to achieve a 50% gender recruitment target, and then some staff provided misleading and deceptive reporting to hide those practices. The poor implementation of a nobly intended strategy meant the QPS fell well short of best practice and exposed the organisation to future risk. but organisations do make mistakes. The more serious aspect of the report relates to the misleading and deceptive reporting. From an organisational point of view, there is a lot to be said for if you mess up, fess up. For completeness, I should note the CCC investigation did start after a referral from the Queensland Police Service. Once again, the report can be found on our website. So this forum is intended to provide liaison officers and other staff from UPAs with some information about and some recent experiences from the CCC to empower you to better manage complaints about corrupt conduct, educate you on best practice in relation to the management of workplace investigations, and ultimately to help prevent corruption in the future. We've assembled 6 short but hopefully highly relevant presentations this morning that cover a range of topics, including using the CCC's corruption allegations data, identifying suspected corrupt conduct, the use of intelligence in that assessment process and reporting to the CCC, feedback in relation to the corruption strategy project in which many of you participated through interviews and/or via written responses to a discussion paper, when an agency should engage an external investigator, providing procedural fairness during a workplace investigation, and finally, experience from a recent joint investigation between the CCC and a state government department. While all topics might not be relevant to every attendee today, we hope that every one of you will find something useful and relevant from today's presenters. I look forward to receiving feedback about today's presentation and seeing you at a future forum. Thank you, and I'll hand you back to Jeff to get the forum underway.